Well, good morning. Are you listening?
Yes, very well.
Yes. And are you seeing the presentation?
Yes, thank you.
Oh, good. So thank you very much to the organization of the Mediterranean Conference for this opportunity to present the Portuguese Informal Network, Museums for Inclusion in Dementia. First, a little context. In Portugal, there are currently 200,000 cases of people with dementia, and according to projections from Alzheimer Europe, this number will rise to around 350,000 by 2050. Although we have a national health strategy for dementia since 2018, it is not operational yet. And people with dementia in Portugal usually don't find responses that meet their needs and preferences. Despite Portugal being a small country, there are many asymmetries between regions with regard to the existence of specific responses for people with dementia and their carers. We all have the same rights. For instance, being valued as a whole beyond our illnesses and lost abilities. Live with well-being, activity, and occupation. Living independently and being included in the community. We also have the right to have opportunities for social participation. So, theoretically, it's possible to live well with dementia, but people with dementia in Portugal and around the world are a particularly vulnerable population. There's still lack of awareness about dementia, and a lot of stigma remains. There are decreased social participation and increased risk of isolation and exclusion. Dementia also affects caregivers. And as I said before, there is a lack of systematic implementation of responses that stimulate and promote, first, intellectual and creative capacities, opportunity to express themselves, quality of life and social involvement, dignity, and meaning. So, studies highlight the benefits that culture and art provide in dementia, including cognitive, emotional, and social outcomes. Museum programs aimed at people with dementia, such as the famous Meet Me in MoMA, are widely used internationally with proven gains. At national level in Portugal, there are few museum programs designed specially for people with dementia and their caregivers, and there is no integrated intervention in this context. The Alzheimer Portugal Association has been participating for several years in the implementation of the few specific existing programs in partnership with museums located in different regions of the country. So one of the most well-known and one of the first programs to be implemented in Portugal is the program Eu no Museu, Me at the Museum. It is implemented since 2011. It was first held at Museu Nacional Machado de Castro in Coimbra, and then this scientifically validated program was later replicated in 3 museums in the central region of Portugal. It was even adapted to an online format during COVID-19 pandemic. More recently, we have another program that is working in Lisbon. The name is Marcar o Lugar, Encontros no Museu, Spot the Place, Meeting at the Museum. And this model is intended to be broad enough so that it can be used according to the collection of each museum and different artistic languages. It is also flexible enough to allow the interests and preferences of the participants to shape the experience. It was designed by different actors, museums, Alzheimer Portugal Association, artists, people with dementia, and their caregivers. Each program is adjusted to the needs and particularities of each group. This model was experimented in 2 pilot museums with different types of art in 2020. And its development and impacts were monitored by a university. Just to know a little bit about what a museum program for people with dementia and their carers could be and can be, look at the structure and method of the program that I've talked about. So it's a program with 6 weekly sessions, 2 hours each session, small groups of people with dementia and their carers, no more than 10. The public can direct observation and enjoyment of artistic objects related to the themes. I'm going to speak about the themes right now. And they can explore the relationship between artistic objects and individual perspectives and experiences. They have also the opportunity to create authorical objects related to the themes previously proposed. So the key themes that we work in this program are traditions, spaces and places, identity, everyday objects, and relationships. And we want with this program to improve well-being, self-esteem, and self-confidence, provide new learning opportunities, personal growth, establish bonds, and participation in social inclusion. So this program involves various partners that you can see here. And this is one of the photos of the sessions. So there are, as I said, few programs, museum programs, specially designed for people with dementia and their carers. So what as a group of entities has thought about was to create a network, museums for inclusion in dementia. So these are the main milestones. The first, the idea arose in the context of an application for funding to create a specific program to be carried out in museums in June 2020. And then we didn't win that application, but we thought we could not lose the opportunity to prepare this network. We thought it was very useful and important. So we prepared all together a document with the principles and operating rules of this network. And I will present you the 12 founding members of the network. Then it was launched 1 month ago to the public, the community, the social media. And we hope that in next year we can be prepared to expand the network to other Portuguese museums. So these are the 12 founding members. As you see, a lot of museums, important ones in Portugal, and we are here also very gladly in working in this network. So the network, this is the logo of the network, and we have 3 general goals: to people with dementia and their carers, to museum teams across the country, and finally to Portuguese society. So the first general goal is to contribute to increase autonomy, well-being, dignity, social and cultural participation, as well as the quality of life of people with dementia and their caregivers. The second goal is to raise awareness among the teams of cultural institutions that want to create specific responses for people with dementia and their caregivers, and empower teams as real agents of change with training and sharing good practices. And finally, the third goal is to promote a more inclusive society by reducing the stigma associated with dementia in Portugal. Specific goals. First, we want to disseminate the existing projects or programs and share good practices. Then we want to implement specific programs for people with dementia and their caregivers, like the ones that I've presented you today. Promote the training of the teams that will implement the programs, to publicize the activities carried out by museums in this area in Portugal. In a second phase, later, we want to draw up general recommendations, produce a good practices manual, contribute to support and evaluate programs in Portuguese museums with the possible use of external consultants with proven experience and skills, and finally, work in partnership with universities to produce and publish joint technical and scientific knowledge. So, how this network operates. For 2023, the governance of the network is done by one or several members, and they are responsible for managing the network for 1 semester each. There are no external funding, and it does not have its own legal structure. It's an informal network. The activities we want to do this year is to implement specific cultural offer for people with dementia and their carers in the several museums that are in the network, to publicize the network and the programs of each museum, to hold 2 working meetings, face-to-face meetings with all the members. They are already scheduled, and to map the museums and other cultural facilities that already work with people with dementia and carers in Portugal. And also to prepare to integrate new members next year. The new members shall meet, to be in the network, shall meet some conditions. They must demonstrate through their practices the respect for fundamental rights of people with dementia and their caregivers. They must adhere to the goals of the network. They have to present a plan to implement the specific programs to people with dementia and their carers, and they must contribute to raise community awareness of dementia and reduce stigma. Finally, they must allocate a team to carry out these programs and create technical and logistical conditions for its execution and evaluation. So, what is our role of Alzheimer Association in this network? Well, we are part of this network as a national association of patients with a specific mission of improving the quality of life of people with dementia and their caregivers, and the purpose of sharing the experience and knowledge acquired over 34 years of existence, and to bridge the gap between specific cultural, artistic offers and the respective target audience. So, our tasks in this network are: publicize the network and the ongoing cultural offer in Portugal, inform and direct the target audience to participate in the programs, collaborate in training museum teams. We have already done that, and it's very important to do so, and support the creation and/or the implementation of offers, programs, and their evaluation. Finally, we shall provide technical and scientific support and contribute to the organization of the events that the network will do. We also collaborate in administrative tasks related to the operation of the network. So, and finally, what do you want to do in the future? First, extend the network to other museums. Then create a website, a specific website for the network, but funding is required. We want also to create a specific training program for cultural mediators. And then we want to create a directory of trained cultural mediators and consultants and/or external auditors. We want also in the future to hire external consultants and/or auditors to implement audit processes to evaluate the museum programs. Also here, funding is required. And finally, we will consider the eventual integration into the network of other cultural facilities, theaters, concert halls, and libraries. And thank you very much for your attention. I finished my presentation. I don't know if we'll have the opportunity to answer some questions from the audience.